Hello, everyone, and welcome to How To Week. This is Kelly Baltzell, CEO, Beyond Indigo, founder, all those wonderful names that I wear. And I have with me today our Director of SEO, Ms. Theresa Greenwood. How are you, Theresa?
Doing wonderful, Kelly. Thank you.
Well, good. Well, Teresa's going to start off and tell us about her topic here. But for How To Week, it's sort of like craft week for your marketing. We were thinking about, well, what could we all give you all things that you can take home and utilize, or I suppose you are home or in your workplace, and utilize from the video. So Teresa's going to unveil hers in a minute, but we also have tomorrow quick and easy copy, that content for your website, Facebook and such like that. Wednesday is telehealth and technology, and Thursday is how to make a good social media image, which is kind of a trick because Facebook's kind of picky. So, stay tuned for the rest of How To Week, or come back and watch our videos recording on YouTube. But Theresa, what is your how-to this week?
Our how-to this week is how to check consistency on your business listing. Mm-hmm. So having consistent business information for your web listing is still very important. It's an important component on how search engine decides to rank and display your practice information.
Yeah.
And it's very important. We don't want to confuse your users when they're looking for you, right? So we want to make sure too that it's always consistent. So listing needs to be precise throughout the internet. And Kelly, the thing is right now is there's database, right, that these engines are using to quickly scrape the internet to verify consistency of your information. And most of the time you'll see something wrong. They're often wrong. So, sometimes it's really important to do a manual check, actually go in and type, super pages or type Bing places. Because when we use the tools, there's some free tools out there, and we can show a couple of examples. Mr. Will, I like to use Moz. Moz is a free online tool. And so here's an example. Right here we can see Google search is correct. It has the correct hours and it has photos. Google Maps also, we see 2 checkbox there. But once you go down the list and you see Bing and it says Bing listing not found, and right next to this screen, this is actually the Bing listing. And you can tell that it's there. The listing is there. The address is accurate. The phone number is accurate. And the hours are accurate. So sometimes, don't just go by the tools. It's easy to use, but you also have to go in and manually check it. And then, update it. And this is why we feel that it's very important to claim your business listing, Kelly. So if you do see an error, you can easily go in and fix it.
Totally. And, we have seen all sorts of strange stuff like here. So for example, the map may not be right. And so Google Maps is putting your business in a different location than it really is, right? And so people use maps all the time these days, or Apple Maps, or Bing Maps to find your location and actually get there. And if they end up in a parking lot that's not you, that causes issues all the way around, right? And a disgruntled person. And, I always say that all these services where your business is listing, they all assume that you're the one, or your marketing company, you're putting eyes to it, right? They're like, because I hear personally, you might hear Theresa, but when I'm out speaking and talking to people at conventions, they're like, well, isn't a human at Google look at this? Well, no. Think about how many businesses, not only in your town, your city, your state, but the entire world, right? We kind of think Google is just for us here in the United States, but Google is global. And all the businesses in the world, there's not enough humans working at Google to go through and verify everything. right? So
Right.
Google assumes that's your responsibility as a business, either yourself or you hire somebody to manage that, and take responsibility for that. Now, if things are wrong, you can fix them, or you can have Google help fix them, and they're usually pretty decent about it, right? Like, but you gotta tell them it's wrong.
Yeah, especially if you claim the listing, then you can actually have access to the database, right? So what we, our strategy, our business listing strategy, we emphasize on, of course, Google My Business, Google Maps, Bing Places, just the major, your Facebook, your Yelp. Yelp is a little bit tricky, but again, if you have it claimed and you have the user login, then it's easy to fix. You still have your yellow pages, your super pages, those you actually have to make a phone call. But most of the time in 2 weeks, they update, their database. And so, but yeah, I mean, you just have to be diligent to make sure. I mean, we've had cases where, the wrong phone number was displayed. They're intending to call the practice and they're getting somebody else. And of course, that person becomes unhappy and calls the practice, right? Or
Right. Well, I've even seen it where the business is really open, but the listings show that they're closed. Like, not like closed today, like closed out of business, closed, right? Like not practicing anymore. And that certainly is a downer for your marketing traffic, because people are like, well, I guess that business isn't open anymore. We'll go look at some other new business, right? And so that's not very helpful if you're trying to get tails through your door. Some other things too that you should be aware of is that setting these things up are not always that hard, but you yourself as a human tend to get inconsistent. So sometimes we as humans might put NE for Northeast, or N period E period for Northeast, or we might write out Northeast. All of those say the same place, right? But they're really not. Like, in the eyes of the coding structure, it really matters.
it really does matter. A couple of things too is suite, right? Or boulevard.
So, like around here, if we leave NE off, there's so many same street names, they'll end up in a town 15 minutes away looking for the business with the same street name except NE. That NE is extremely important, which is why I'm bringing it up today.
Yeah. Same with like suite, if you move it out, right? You might have the street address correct, but you forget to add, the suite number.
So anyway, some things we see, speaking of the suite, which is really important, is if there's two businesses in the same physical address. So like, say during the day is just a regular animal hospital practice, general practice, but at night it turns into an urgent care. They are actually maybe have two different names. That can become really important for Google, because they don't like two businesses in the same address. So then you have to go and work with like the post office, or put an arbitrarily suite name on there, so that Google sees that it's actually two different businesses residing underneath the same roof. So, and that's another thing we see all the time, but we're all like, oh yeah, we know what the problem is, right? That's the problem. So the takeaway today is go check your listings manually. Scraping means that, by the way, I'm going to that word because everybody might not know what scraping is. Scraping means that software goes in there and lifts or copies, and then the address from Bing, and compares it, and copies the address from Google and compares it, like, quicker than you and I can process. But that's what they're doing. They're going in, pulling the information up. But in our world, that's called scraping, because in technology on the internet, we use a lot of slang terms. So it's one of them. People may wonder, like, if you're actually taking a knife on the computer screen and like scraping it off, but we're not doing that. That's a software thing. So go in and check or talk to your provider who's helping you with your listings or SEO to make sure all of those are correct. And they shift. So don't assume that you do it once, that you're golden for the next 10 years. You know, Google changes their algorithm, Facebook does, everybody changes their coding, and sometimes they don't always get it right, and things shift. Right. So make sure you go and double check, and don't get mad if you think an employee has done it or a marketing provider, and then you come back later and find it's wrong. Well, they probably really did their job. The employee did, or you did. It's just they shifted. Like coding changes and it shifts. It's a fluid environment. So be easy on yourself and give everybody a little bit of grace on that, right? Right. Well, thank you, Theresa, for being here today and bringing up a reminder that we all need to remember what our digital footprint looks like out on the internet. See you later.
Thank you, Kelly. See you.